So to get this to go into there and the shaft go through, we can go through this end because look, it extends all the way through, but however this one slightly different. So I thought I would drill on the inside of it, drill that out, or begin to drill it out. I imagined these sockets have been hardened, had special treatment, I guess. Anyway, it turns out they have, because all it does is turn it into dust. Wow! Has anybody ever tried to drill through a socket before? Wow, that was a sort of shocker, but not a shocker. So we're going to have to do that on the spanner, and then put the end of the shaft in there, and then put that in there, and then weld that together like that. But it's changed our plan slightly. But anyway, let's crack on. I wondered. Oh, well, first of all, I saw this. What did I see? I saw this. And I thought, well, this is a spark plug spanner. We're using a spark plug spanner. So I wonder if our faithful friend, the box spanner, will come to our rescue. Because basically we're trying to weld a reduce down whilst keeping it straight. Well, if we reduce that fits in there fine. So we can put that in fairly confident, weld around the edge here, tack it. Then cut that short, get the other one and make this fit in there. So again, put it in just so it just fits, sort of thing. That's another reducer. Are we lucky? And will this one reduce onto the, yeah, this will reduce onto the shaft, won't it? Or thereabouts, even if we have to cut it and split it. Yeah, we're using the inside edge of this and the outside edge of that. We could use it again. You see, they're box spanners, but they're not. They're multiple sizes of tube to use as you wish. Yeah, so that might work that way. Let's dig a little further. Question is, how do you weld that onto there without getting this wobbliness? You get too much wobble, you'll get trapped. You won't be able to run the shaft down the middle. You've got to try and get it as central as possible, and you know, as always, very easy to say, not very easy to do. And you know, if you start like that, fine, but if you end up like that, you're never going to drive the shaft. So you need some sort of system that you know is central. So we're going to put this in there. Look, that'll sit in there. That's nice and central and straight. And if we squeeze it in the vise, we know it's square, don't we? And that will then go over here. Well, it's pretty close. We've got enough, that's enough play. Could even clamp it together and then weld it. And that would then allow you to get from there to there without going too offline. Do you know what I mean? Because I've been there, we've all been there. We've welded something up. It should go straight, but it ends up having a wobble. And inside that tube, there's no room to, and there's not enough bend in this. It's not soft enough for it to handle the whip, because it has to come straight down the middle for here, and then straight down the middle from there onwards. So it's going to be quite important, because if we don't get this bit right, it'll foul itself up, and you'll never get this thing to turn around. To do a bit of a turn and it'd be jammed because it's not in a straight line. Yeah. So we've just got to think about that. Oh, don't get me wrong, people with lathes and mills and blah blah blah, they'd make an end cap, they'd put a bearing on there. That's them. They're not us. We are butchers in the garage. with what we've got. So we've got to work with what we got, and we've got to make it work, because we don't want it off at an angle like that, do we? We want that dead straight. So rely on somebody else's engineering. The middle of that is the middle of that, and the middle of this is the middle of this. So if we follow somebody else's doing, that's going to be dead straight, isn't it? And we'll be able to reduce down to this. So square the end off, push that through till it gets there, which is only that bit we have to square off, and then put that there, and then we'll put that on. That will, you could even put it together really. Yeah. Because remember as well, you do have a little bit of movement as you weld one side, because you can only do one at a side. It'll tend to try and do that unless you've got it really clamped in tight. If you're welding it loose, just the fact that you're heating it up and moving it, it makes it come out of square. We've had that before, haven't we? That's why I always like to clamp them in tight. Do the weld, let the weld cool off, and it doesn't twist as the weld settles. Yeah. It's always, nothing's ever simple, is it? Nothing's ever simple. Ooh. Heard of the saying, trying to put a round peg into a square hole? Well, that's what we're trying to do now. Putting a round peg into a square hole needs a bit more squaring off. That we've put a round peg into a square hole. But we want to run it the other way around now, don't we? We want to run it that way and keep it straight and square all at the same time. This is still hot. Hold on a minute. Let me just do that. We've hammered the square peg, so we've got our drive now for the twist, haven't we? We're going to weld the top of this, because this surface is going to hold this surface, which is going to do the driving. So we'll weld that all together, and then we'll grind it flat, and then we'll weld the spanner on it on this surface, so they don't interfere. So we can turn this into one big blob now. Then we can grind it flat-ish as best we can. Then we'll grind this onto the spanner, won't we? And at the same time, this shaft here has helped us keep it, with a bit of luck. This is a dead straight. Doesn't matter about this. We can move that or keep it off the surface. This can move a little bit. But it's this, we want this to continue down the shaft as straight as we can do it. I was going to cut a bit off. Keep that bit, but don't matter. We'll do something else on the other one. So yeah, we've tacked that for now. We've put it in the vise and jammed it, so we know that's straight. We know it ain't going to move, so we can tack this onto there now. And then we can, because we can come out afterwards. It doesn't move afterwards, it only moves as you're building it. If you do it wrong, and you tack here wrong and you tack there wrong, that's it, you're done. But now we've tacked it, and it's holding. We tack here and here, we can go round afterwards and fill in the gaps, you know. 100% weld this around here, 100% weld that round there. I know you don't really need it, because we have got a drive. But you know me, I like everything to be gripping everywhere. So, we're finally making progress on a nice straight shaft. Now we'll just weld that all together. We've created ourselves a nice big blob. There was an indent naturally on the end of the spanner, of the socket I should say. So that'll fill in there in blob. Now we're just going to make that nice and smooth now. So that socket is definitely going to drive that shaft, or that shaft is definitely going to drive that socket now. So we've ground that nice and flat. All we've got to do now is weld this on there, not that way, not that way, not this way. Nice and flat on there now, so we get a nice drive on there. What we're doing? We're doing okay. So at least we know from here onwards is okay. It's looking pretty good. It's tacked at the moment. We can go back and weld it and do all the rest with it. Let's have a look now. It's looking pretty good. Looking pretty straight. And there we are, look. Ooh. Oh yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. Yep. I'm really happy with that. So let's try if we can continue. But anyway, so we are halfway down the pipe. Now the fun begins. Now the fun begins. Wow. We can't ask for much straighter than that, can we? No. So, oh, I'm encouraged now. How do we do the next bit? So, we got ourselves a 27mm. We know that fits. We don't want it to be exact, we just want it to be able to move around. So, Saturday night, the cops are going ever mad. So if we fit that on that way, onto there, nice and square and straight, and then we fit another shaft onto the end of this, which is the plug socket we knew, put a square on there, put that into there, weld these two together, so weld the shaft in. I don't know, do we make the shaft so that we can withdraw it? That'd be interesting. If we just simply put a square on the end of there, and this would be the key to get in there. But then how would you drive it? Well, the bolt on the end. Do we want to make it a permanent shaft? Or do we want to make it so that it Here we are, again, that's probably number 4 now. So do we make it so it can disconnect? Simply weld a nut on the other end. Connect. Can't hardly miss the nut, can it? Do we want to make it permanent, or do we want to run a nut up there so we rattle it on, grips the nut and then turns it? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? The thing is, you can go so many different ways with these things. So, make a square in there. Put that on the end of there. Then put this on the end of there. Well, it obviously be a lot shorter. This there, say. And that would then bring us to here, wouldn't it? But in between times there's plenty of space to get out of line. That's the problem, keeping everything in line. We've done that all right. Quite happy with that. Is that going to be the same? Do we weld them on the ends first, or do we weld them here first? Where do we weld this to the end and that to the end and then weld them together? Or do we just create this as a joint and well, put a square in there, square in there? See, there's plenty of room inside. There's enough play in this to help it along, you know, even if you have to get a tube and shove some grease down there to help it. There's plenty of, you know, wiggle room. Not much, but enough. And the more times you turn it, it will wear its way into a certain shape. So we haven't got a lot of wiggle room. Do we need to make this a lot smaller so that we've got room to move, especially in the middle? We could make it all together smaller, couldn't we? See what it looks like the other way around. We could reduce down so the middle has a bit more flexibility. We could put that on the end, so we're talking about the middle now that we'll never see again. Are we going to make the middle here and hope the bar stays straight, or are we going to make the joint in the middle altogether thinner, so if there is some sort of a flex or unstraightness, it'll just help it go around, won't it? Because we're only interested in the drive on the end. Yeah. For the middle, I'm tempted to put that in the middle, join the two bars together, because we haven't got one big long bar. Keep this end piece here, control it here. It would have to come in that way, wouldn't it? Would it? No, it'd have to go in that way. So, are we going to be fouled by the inside of it again? Yeah. So we've only got a little. I mean, it's a pretty tough thing, isn't it? I think it's going to go in all right. Well, what are we thinking? Or are we going to go and visit our box spanner friends and just link it? I was thinking it with just one link of a box spanner, slide over it. But you know me, not strong enough. I'd have to have another one on top of that. Let's go see if we can find a box spanner that'll fit on top of itself and in there at the same time. We could go down the route of a box spanner, couldn't we? Use the length of a box spanner. That would fit over there nicely. These are a bit short. You'd have a nice straight link then, wouldn't you? This is okay, but a short link can get out of shape pretty quick. It doesn't take much of an angle out of here on a short link. But if we've got a longer link, let's go see if we can find a slightly bigger box spanner. So we could use a slightly bigger one and crush it in the vise. Yeah, you'd crush this in the vise, wouldn't you? You'd push that halfway in. It's a bit slack. Fits in the tube, no problem. You'd crush it together to centralise it and weld it. Turn it round and put the other bar in that side. Let's see if we can get... You see, box spanners, they're just multiple sizes of tube, aren't they? For you to use whenever you want. And they cost you, where you're going to get a piece of tube the right size for whatever case you're doing. Box spanners, really good for welding jobs and all this. Multiple sizes. I mean, what would you do? Would you cut this down and squeeze it on and then weld it? Let's go see if we can find a slightly better, rather one that you force on almost. Because we know the box spanner is straight. I think we're going to go down that path. Let's go see if we can find a better box spanner that'll go on there. We had some box spanners in here, didn't we? A little bit on the, yeah, a little bit on the big side. A little bit on the thin side. Yeah, quite good enough. Too thick, too thick. What's this one? Come on. Let it go with a push. This side will go. Oh yeah, look. It's nearly through. Is it long enough? I think we found our link. Yeah. The hell is that? We could hammer that in through there, couldn't we? It's long enough to keep it straight, isn't it? Mark the middle of there. push that into halfway, weld that there, push the other one halfway. The box spanner itself is doing the straightening, isn't it? It's not really going to go out of shape much. We could even crush it in the vise just to make sure it straightens itself. Yeah, this box spanner is going to be our joint. So we've hammered the end of that on there. It cannot be anything but straight because of the length of this. I would have preferred it longer, but simply because of the straightness of this in the first place, it cannot be any other than straight, can't it? Except it looks a little bit crooked, but it doesn't matter because we've got enough room. This is thin enough to spin around in there and not get fouled. It's got enough room to move. That's the theory anyway. Let's put this in there, see what it looks like. So I can't hear any problems in there with that. It's not touching the end up there. So I reckon that's the way to go. Yeah, let's do the other end now. See what we're going to do with the other end. So this is where you get into bother. There's a looseness in there, isn't there? Yeah, that's what's going to cause us any sort of mishap. But this is thin enough to take up that slack. You know, if it's a little bit out, because this is thin enough, this will stand that bend that little bit. But how we're going to help ourselves now is we're going to crush this into there on the vise. This exercise, all I've done is forced a bit of cable tie around it. You could use tape, you could use whatever. That should be replaced with tin really, because we're going to weld. But anyway, for now, that'll do. Let's see if it goes, see if it runs. And there we have it. Yeah. Obviously, once finishing welding up and tidying up. Can you see the end there? Right, let's see the very end. Going to do just great. We'll have this little bit of thread here. We'll do whatever we're going to do here. We haven't even thought about it yet, have we? No, what we're going to do here. But we've got to where we want to be. This. Because we only want that sort of a turn, don't we? That's going to. Let's get to the very end. You know what we'll do? Let's put a mole grips on it. Hold on. We've got to where we want to be. Look, can you see the end? We've got to where we want to be on our, come back a bit. We've got to where we want to be with our secret. We've got this end, haven't we? Bit of oil, bit of dribble of oil there. Finish this off. What we do this end is replicated that end. But actually it's not going to be that exactly. It could be, it's going to be downwards, isn't it, the link? So that, because it's up against the corner, that will be shut, and that will be open because it'll push the bar up against the gate, won't it? So this will be open, yeah, and that will be shut. That will be shut because that will push the bar across and jam the door. So we've got to work on that end next. Anyway, let's finish welding up, tidying up, and ooh, I'm really pleased with that now. I am really chuffed with that. The secret lock is going to work fantastic. Yeah. And there's no fouling. I mean, it's given me an idea now. We could put a thread. We could put it that you wind this up to open the lock, and you unwind it to open the lock. Yeah, the world is a possibility. The world of possibilities that you can do and invent and change your mind as you go along. We had one thought in our mind, and we sort of got there, and we decided we didn't really think about the box spanner, did we? And we thought of a socket. And do we do the socket inwards, downwards? So I was going to sort of put a as you might say, a middle bearing to support it. This would do a similar job, but we've managed to bypass that, haven't we, and use the box spanner. Woohoo! Yeah, I'm really pleased now. And of course works obviously works the other way as well, but you know, you can see that a lot better now, can't you? Oh, I'm sort of tempted with a thread, you know, tempted with a winding mechanism. Do you think we can make a winding mechanism? What do you think?